Hey Amarillo, I'm Skylar Gallup, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record each week at the beautiful offices of Rosenbach Contractors, experts in high-end design and construction, creating stunning, functional spaces through both new builds and remodels. Today's guest is Kari Bachman. Kari helps people. It's really what she's always done, from her time in the Peace Corps to nonprofit work in New Mexico, and now in her position as Senior Services Coordinator at the City of Amarillo's Warford Center. What I thought was going to be a conversation about the importance of supporting our elderly population turned into so much more, and I am so thankful for it. We talk about preserving dignity for our aging neighbors and the stigma around aging, which is just, not dying, and a lot more. It's full of love and compassion, and I hope you enjoy. Here's Kari. Kari Bachman, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, excited to visit with you. I am excited about this conversation because you have a windy path, and I love a windy path. So let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
Wow, that itself is a hard question because I sort of grew up on both coasts, Southern California, the Southeast, which was North Carolina and Virginia, Northern California, and that was all before I graduated high school. So if people ask me where I'm from, I don't really know. And sometimes that's hard, and sometimes I'm proud of that because it means I love anywhere I go. Literally anywhere I go, I will find something wonderful and beautiful there. And Amarillo's been that way for me too. Not that it shouldn't have been because it's a great place, but some people, when I was moving here, said, why the heck are you moving to Amarillo? And, in New Mexico, we don't have the best feeling about Texans sometimes. So yeah, it's a blessing, I think, to have been brought up and lived so many places as a child.
That's a nice perspective to take on it. I think the other one could be, a bit untethered.
Untethered, yes.
Yeah.
I think I was untethered, and it's not till I grew up or got into my 20s that I really appreciated the fact that I could, see different ways of doing things as none of them being right or wrong, just different. But for a lot of people who I went to school with, that was not the case. Especially in the Southeast, there were a lot of sort of judgments made about you based on your religion or not religion that you had, or where you went to school, or what kind of clothes you wore. And that was not the way that I wanted to be. It's funny kind of being back in the South a little bit here because we're sort of South-ish, I would say. I don't find that way. And maybe the South has just changed a little bit, or maybe this part of the South is more Western, Midwestern, and we don't see those judgments made quite as much.
That's encouraging.
It is very encouraging, yes.
What did you do out of high school?
I went to college. So I sort of took the route of get my education and then go figure out what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to go help people who were immigrants be able to live in this country. And I got into law. I took political science in college and decided I really didn't want to be arguing all the time or in front of books all that much, although I love books. And so that's when I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I, out of college, sort of, again, untethered, I would say, decided to go into the Peace Corps. And that was my third experience living overseas, which was incredible and very, very challenging, probably the hardest thing I've done.
What year was this when you entered the Peace Corps?
It would have been 88.
Okay.
Yes.
So what did that deployment look like?
Oh, deployment.
Are they
That's
called deployment? I don't know. They're not.
But,
okay.
it sort of is like being in the military in a way.
What do they call that? What do they call you?
I don't know.
Join the Peace Corps.
I don't remember what.
Well,
they
where'd you go,
it.
and what was your experience?
Anyway, yes, I went to Central Africa, which at the time was called Zaire. It's now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I went there, and I was deployed, if you want to use that word, as a fish culture extension agent. And that was basically because I said I didn't want to go teach English. As a liberal arts major, that's what they would send you to do normally. But I had enough science that they said, hey, you can teach people how to raise freshwater fish, even though I knew nothing about it. And they trained me so that I could ostensibly do that. And it was something. I mean, I learned so much more, I think, from the villagers who I lived with and who I worked with than they learned from me. But incredible experience, just to be in a place where, at that time there were no cell phones, there was obviously no electricity, no running water, no ability to call or get out, any information if you were in trouble. It basically just was literally snail mail, and that was a snail.
That's really hard. That's hard to actually fathom in our world today.
Yes, it is. Even Peace Corps volunteers nowadays, they're all connected, even if it's a solar panel that you have set up and you can do your laptop, and they're connected with their family, they're connected with other volunteers, and we were not. We were, probably at least 3 hours from the nearest volunteers, so I never saw them. We were discouraged from seeing each other, which I actually liked because I wanted the full experience. I think sometimes volunteers live too much with each other, and there's that expat mentality of, oh, we're just going to hang out with the people we know, and that's kind of gross, to be honest. I don't appreciate that in overseas work. I think if you're going to be there, you need to be like embedded and really living and working and understanding life as much as you can from the local perspective.
How old were you?
Oh, wow. I think I was 20.
Wow.
Yes.
And how long were you in Africa at 20 with no connectivity?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of at a time, like it'd be 3 months at a time.
Okay.
So I ended up leaving early, I will say. So normally you're posted for 2 years, and I was there at my post for about a year. And then, for Peace Corps training for 6 months before that. But I ended up leaving because I was young and I'm sometimes hot-headed, I guess. And
Okay.
you are an employee of the U.S. government, and that's okay. Although I didn't really appreciate some of the things that they were telling us we could and could not do. Namely, that I had a boyfriend who came back who was in the Peace Corps with me and spoke the local language and knew the fish culture. And he came back to help at my post, and they said he couldn't be there. And I said, if that's your perspective when you're getting basically a free worker, I don't know as I want to be part of this organization. And so I ended up deciding to leave. That was a really hard decision, but I think probably for the best. I don't necessarily think that I like working in large bureaucracies. And Peace Corps, even though you're out on your own, is part of the U.S. government, and it's a large bureaucracy. And here I am, I work now for the city of Amarillo, which I love, by the way. So I'm not saying it's a big, huge, awful bureaucracy. It's not.
So I'm curious, how big of an impact did that year in change have on like who you are today?
That's a good question. I think it had an impact in ways that are probably unexpected because I had already lived and worked overseas before. So it didn't have the impact that it might have on somebody who is totally new to that kind of existence. What it made me realize was that, and this didn't happen for a couple years afterwards, that I was clinically depressed. And that was something that, in retrospect, I should have recognized while I was there. But it manifested at that time as like kind of intense loneliness, even though I was with a lot of people, local people, but I just felt very unmoored, I think, from life. And it wasn't until a number of years later that I was able to get into therapy and take medication and that kind of thing that I really realized that I had been I describe it as living in a tunnel. And you don't know you're in the tunnel until you're out of the tunnel. And I think since then have become quite a different person. I'm much more outgoing. At the time, it was harder for me to initiate conversation with strangers, and now it's something that I love to do. And, life, I think people need to understand that mental illness is not something to run away from and be embarrassed about. It's something that we can help each other deal with and work through. And so I'm always very straightforward about that. And I don't know if it would have been as apparent to me if I hadn't been living in that extreme of a situation, so far away from anything that I knew for so long, that was really what it was. But other than that, I will say all the sort of typical things you say when you go to another country. You learn so much about I mean, knowing another language and working with people who had never seen ice and some children who had never seen a white person, it opens your eyes to different perspectives on the world. And I would say, in particular, the biggest one is the language piece, because in Zaire, well, I still call it Zaire, it's DRC now, they speak over 220 different languages, not just dialects. And their people may not have ever gone to school, and they would speak 3 or 4 languages fluently. And they would laugh when I would tell them, in our country, we think it's enough to speak one language. And so to me, I've always really, that's stuck with me, that you don't have to be educated in the sort of typical schooling way to be smart and to be much more knowledgeable about ways of being in the world than we are in our country.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to attain knowledge.
Absolutely. And when you speak more than one language, you already have it at your fingertips. You already understand what it means to see things differently through another culture.
Yeah.
When their tribe on the other side of the mountain is, a different tribe, and that's where your in-laws live, yeah, you better speak that language.
Yeah. What did you do coming out of the Peace Corps?
Ooh, so that was tricky. I came home and I didn't know what to do.
Did you stay with boyfriend?
Oh, no.
No.
That didn't work out, and that was hard,
fleeting.
of course, right? I know, no. And so I came home, and it's the typical story for people who are young and out of Peace Corps. You feel you're just lost in your own country. I would go to a grocery store and just feel overwhelmed by all the selections and just depressed by all of the commercialism and the consumerism that we have here. And I have to say that still is true. A lot of what I see in this country is just so much excess.
Yeah.
Even though I love this country and I feel that, I'm proud to be an American. That's not that I'm not proud, but that's not part of it that I'm proud of. But I came back and ended up working at a summer camp for international kids, which was amazing. And I worked in the kitchen, and I still say my favorite job ever in the world. Just loved it. And then after that, I ended up working on an organic educational farm in Rhode Island. And that was amazing as well, like living in the middle of the woods in Rhode Island. Wow. And just living with other like-minded, sort of back-to-earth people, and working with kids and working with animals and plants. And so it was a really good transition back to this country. I don't think I could have done regular urban or suburban particularly, would have been hard.
These parts of you, being altruistic, being very thoughtful and helpful to the people around you, where did that come from?
Such a good question. I think it came from my mom, my grandparents. My grandfather was a pediatrician, and he was somebody who would go not door to door, but home to home.
Sure.
With his doctor bag. And, reassure the young moms. And so to me, it was like very common, like you'd go to dinner at grandma and grandpa's house, and he would be talking to a young mom about, don't worry about that, Miss Addie, you'll be okay. And, he was sort of like a country doctor. I mean, he was no longer in the country, but he grew up in the country. And to me, that was, I think, an example. And then my mom, she has this amazing love of other cultures. And I don't know how my dad, what he thought of it, but he went along. Ever since we were kids, we had exchange students who would come and live with us in the summertime. And so I would see like what it meant to be in a totally different culture, and what it was like as a child to engage with somebody who didn't understand that the bread that was sitting on the toaster oven that was meant to be, they thought, eaten for breakfast was actually my sister's birthday cake. And she got all upset when they cut into the cake and didn't know, because for her, being from Japan, bread was bread. You didn't eat bread that often, So, I mean, just this sense of like how you can be helpful to somebody who's new and not from that environment. I've always loved being that person. I worked over here at Pride Home Center when I first moved here, and I loved that job because you would see people coming into the store and they had no idea where to go, and I knew nothing about hardware, so that was not my strength. But to just be able to ask them and say, hey, can I get you some help, and connect them with the right person, or help them buy plants in the greenhouse, like, it's just a wonderful feeling. People can be of help in any walk of life, and you don't have to be knowledgeable, you don't have to be educated. You can always, be of service. And so that to me is one thing I love in the work that I do now. That's what we are doing, is we are in service to each other. Not just me in service to others, but others in service to others.
Just the idea of helping someone.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
And I love hearing that, modeling wider perspectives at a young age pays off.
It does, even though at a young age you're kind of like, why do I have to share my bathroom with yet another person from another country, you know?
Yeah, your sister lost her birthday cake.
I think we survived,
Yes,
first world problems, of course.
that's right.
But yeah.
So you found yourself in New Mexico. What did we do in New Mexico?
Well, I went there because my sister was going to move there.
Mm.
It was right after, those two experiences I told you about. And she was going to move there, and she never moved there, but I moved there. And so I ended up there for almost 30 years, actually. And went back to school, got my degree in extension education, which is basically education outside of a classroom, which was great. And then ended up working at New Mexico State University for almost 20 years doing nutrition education work. At that time in my phase in Las Cruces, in the community, but not really with the community, I will say, when you work for a university, you're not connected in a way that I felt I wanted to be. And so after that, the work that I fell into was really coordinating, directing a nonprofit, which was very much of the community. And that was, to me, felt like home. That was incredible work. It was working on health equity, which is basically all of the conditions that go into making us healthy or unhealthy. So we might be talking about and with people who are unhoused at city council, and the next day we might be painting a sidewalk or an intersection to draw positive attention to a neighborhood that people thought wasn't worth anything. So working on all kinds of different issues with people who were themselves impacted by health disparities. And that was really powerful, beautiful work. And speaks, I think, a little bit to the work that I do now. I'm in a different setting, working in the belly of the beast, you might say, for government. And yet, I feel like what I really am trying to do is build community amongst people and with people who, as older adults, may not be valued, may not feel they themselves have value, and we're trying to build that together.
Yeah, so intro your current work, of which I am a big fan.
Oh, thank you so much. I work at Warford Activity Center, which is in the North Heights, and I actually happen to live in the North Heights as well, so I, can bike or walk to work, which I don't do enough. But the North Heights is a wonderful, beautiful community, and I feel so grateful to be rooted in that space, both at work and at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really the first opportunity in my life that I've had a chance to live with and work with African American people in this country. And, in New Mexico, the population's very small. And here in Amarillo, I think it's wonderful that we still have a cohesive African American community, although that also comes with a lot of trauma and racism that is still very real in the society here. And it's often, I think, ignored. And yet it's very obvious to me. People come in to Warford Activity Center and say, oh, this was the why, the city took it over. And I say, I know we did. And I'm a white person, and I'm here, and I'm working in a space that doesn't feel like it's yours anymore. Mm-hmm. And so that's a lot of harm that's been done that we are trying to address, and do that together in partnership with Black folks who live and work in that neighborhood, in the community, and at the center. So to me, being able to knit together a group of community members who come to Warford and utilize the facilities, come to lunch, who are very diverse, is a great challenge, and also the beauty of the work that we do. Because we are, I think, honestly, in this community, one of the few spaces where people from very different walks of life rub shoulders and actually build relationships. And to me, that's the magic right there, is building those relationships with people who are completely unlike you. Because we start to see life in a different way. We start to be able to understand what's possible in our community and build our community to be a better space, a better place that's welcoming and, provides health opportunities to everybody, not just those who have money or education.
Talk a little bit about some of the programs at Warford and how wildly successful they are. I mean, the traffic that you guys get there, to your point, of such diversity and, kind of all of these things that we hope for are occurring, and like growing and being supported and being loved into.
So
Yeah.
true. We have such a great legacy that we're building on. I mean, the North Branch Y was an incredible facility for the community. And as Warford Activity Center now, we are just building on what they did. So I don't claim any like part of that success other than what came before us and what we're continuing to build with community. We have at Warford Activity Center, if you don't know, the amenities that the Y had. So we have our indoor pool, we have a basketball court, we have a weight room and a cardio room and a fitness center. So all the things that can happen in those spaces, including like fitness classes every day, many things like water aerobics and Zumba and chair yoga and self-defense and all of these great classes. And we also have what we call our 50 and better wing, which is super fun. That's where I hang out most of my life, literally. And that is where we do all kinds of things that are not fitness based, but more really focused on building community relationships and fighting social isolation and loneliness. So the first thing I'd say that we've done, which started last summer, it's not even been just a year, it's been not even a year, is our lunch bunch. And so that's Monday through Friday from 12 to 1. Anybody 50 and over is welcome to come. You don't have to call ahead. You don't have to pay anything. It's open to the entire community. And we have people from all walks of life who sit down with us to lunch. Every day they're new people, and every day they're people who are finding old friends in our space, which is so beautiful to see. So that's one thing. That's sort of our anchor, I would say, back in 50 and better. And then we have 12 member-led activities that we do each week. And so those are 12 sessions of member-led activities. And some of those are repeated throughout the week. But those range everything from Scrabble and chess. We had just had chess today where 2 of our folks were learning chess from one of our members. We also do 3 different types of card games, including Bidwist, which is a wonderful traditional game in the African American community and being carried on by one of our members teaching other members. We do 2 different types of dominoes. We have diamond art. We have other games that we play. These are things I tell people, if you would like to do something and you don't see it on the schedule, let me know and we will help you find a time for it, and you can be the member who leads that activity. So it's not led by us as in staff. It's just we hold a space, and this space is where these things happen and where the magic happens and those relationships are built. I mean, I've got a whole schedule and we keep having to print it out on larger and larger paper because it gets more and more full. But it's a beautiful thing. We have cornhole as well, and we're doing a cornhole tournament tomorrow with Wesley Community Center, and that's a really fun challenge match that we've started with them. So I love working with other senior organizations as well. I think the city is big enough for all of us. We do not need to be nitpicking about who has what turf or territory. I was just over at Hilltop with Warren Coble this morning, and he provides our wonderful food for our emergency pantry, and we were taking him some of our extra card playing supplies. So it's a partnership. That's the way we get things done.
We have an increasingly aging population, and with that comes its own set of challenges and celebrations and all sorts of things. What is your perspective on how to serve our neighbors that are 50 and better, as you guys call, which I love so much? What are some things that you've learned to do, not to do, that's not needed, that is incredibly important?
I think we have to recognize the strengths amongst people who are older. Number one, if we're not getting older, our alternative is that we're not here anymore. So celebrate that aging in ourselves and other people, and really fight the ageism that exists in our community. We actually have an outreach effort that we've just started about 2 months ago now. We, together, our team, we have AmeriCorps members and other volunteers, and we read a book and discussed that book. And we were like, what can we do to kind of help other people understand that aging is challenging and wonderful, like you just said, to be celebrated, and the challenges are not to be underestimated. And we are all still viable and wonderful at any age. Like, we all still have something to offer. And that ageism is very internalized, and it's also very exists in the structures as well as in other people. And so we actually have started taking a workshop on the road where we really talk about aging on our own terms. And it's not just the usual, oh, eat right, exercise more. It's really like, okay, when somebody says something like, oh, I'm 59 years young, say something about that. I'm 59 years old, and I am proud to say I'm 59, and I am proud to say that I'm older. I am an older adult, and that's a term that I want to embrace and encourage others to embrace. Because as we do that, we are fighting that stigma of aging. It's not about super aging. It's not about fighting all of those things that come. It's like saying, you know what? Yeah, we've got some challenges, and those wrinkles and that gray hair, that's a reality. And I'm embracing those. And I've also gained a lot of wisdom and perspective and, sort of empathy, I think, as I age, I'd like to think. And those are things to celebrate and to continue to share out with the community. So I would say that's the thing that I've learned to see is that ageism is a huge issue. I met a new person today at lunch, and she said, her friend said, oh yeah, she's got a birthday coming up. And she said, no more birthdays. So we had a conversation right there about this. There are opportunities at every moment to say, you know what? If you're not aging and having birthdays, where would you be? Let's embrace those birthdays.
Such a human thing to do, to fight against something that is inevitable.
Isn't it so true? Right. And it's like the only ism that is against our future selves. Like, if we're fighting aging, we're actually saying that we don't like who we're becoming. And that's really sad, I think. And this is something peculiar, I think, to Western societies. Like when I was in Africa and certainly in Asia, people are revered when they're older. And here, that's not really the case. We're sort of tossing older folks to the side. And that's why we see so much isolation, so much loneliness. And that's where Warford can, I think, really step in and other organizations and say, hey, come hang out. Come make some new friends. As friends die, which they will as you get older. I have a friend in Las Cruces who's 104 years old. And imagine how hard it is when all of your contemporaries are gone, literally every one of them in her case. And yet, my friendship that I have with her, I feel is just a beautiful thing. We can all do that.
This episode is sponsored by the Amarillo Art Institute at Arts in the Sunset, a center for Amarillo's vibrant art scene. They've got classes and galleries and monthly events open to the public, including the First Friday Art Walk and their summer market. That's every Saturday from 8 in the morning until noon and features artists, artisans, and the Golden Spread Farmers Market that runs early June through mid-September. Check them out on Facebook. That's the Amarillo Art Institute at Arts in the Sunset. In Amarillo, I'd like to hear from your perspective around some barriers that our aging population may face. I think about transportation. I think about that isolation, and I know there's a lot of work being done. But from a person that works within that circle, what do you think about? That if I only had unlimited resource, unlimited manpower, unlimited what needs some more love in our community.
Oh my goodness, if with unlimited resources, wow, there are a lot of things that I think we could do. We could fix our broken healthcare system for one, because it's broken for everybody, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on. That would be something. I see people all the time frustrated about accessing care, about the quality of care that they're getting. And that's true regardless of income level, I think. But speaking more to people who, let's say, who don't have access to transportation, I think Amarillo is a bit behind, I would say, in terms of ability for people to access services if you don't have a car. And that's not unexpected. We're sort of on the edge of being the West, which is, sprawled, big, wide open spaces. The Panhandle there's more space going outwards than there is upwards. And so everything just gets sprawled. But we don't have a lot of sidewalks. And if you look at 24th, around near Thompson Park, Ross Rogers there that is such a scary street. And for a good part of it, there are no sidewalks. And there are many people who walk that street because of necessity. That's not okay. That is just not okay. We're putting people in harm's way just for the sake of being able to say we can drive our automobiles. So I would definitely put sidewalks in everywhere, and accessible sidewalks, that have curb cuts in them so that people in wheelchairs, people with walkers can navigate those successfully. And if we had those, we'd be able to see people being self-sufficient till a lot later in their lives. But right now we don't have that. What goes along with that? I mean, I've done a lot of work in built environment and stuff, so don't get me started, but we need livable communities with access to healthy food nearby and community resources that you don't have to drive all the way across town for. Now, I actually think Amarillo in some ways does better than many communities our size in that regard, but there's more that we could do for sure. But for older adults, honestly, one of the biggest areas that we lack is connection to people who are caring and can be there for more than just provision of services. Because, it's great to have your doctor who cares, but that's a transactional relationship. As much as we think maybe it's not, we need relationships that are not based on transaction, that are based on caring and love. And that is sometimes hard to find.
And what occurs at the Warford, right?
Yes, that brings us back to Warford Activity Center, which we're embedded in a neighborhood. We have a lot of foot traffic coming in and out. But even that, Amarillo, I love to see, it's a city of 200,000 people, and yet if you have to drive 15 minutes, you think that you're so far away. I mean, really, honestly, things are so accessible. And we have people who come from Canyon, who come from Dumas to work out at Warford Activity Center. So it's not far. If you happen to live not in the north part of town, come give us a try. You'll be surprised how quickly you can get there.
I'm thinking about something you said a moment ago around accessibility and sidewalks, and that seemingly disconnected choices like curb cuts actually could contribute to someone remaining independent for longer, and this is not my area of work, so I have zero stats on it, but I would imagine there's a pretty strong correlation between staying independent longer and longevity and quality of life. And to connect that, or to start to think about what relatively small choices could contribute, certainly if compounded, to higher quality and longer life.
Absolutely. And so those choices, there may be small choices at the individual level, or they may be at the societal, structural, institutional level. And so, the people who create our streets need to realize we need a curb cut so that you can actually roll up onto that sidewalk if you're in a wheelchair. And then if you're using a walker, you can actually stay walking longer, and that will prevent you from actually losing that strength and prevent you from falling and prevent you from having to go into assisted living. And that way you're not a burden on society. I mean, I don't mean to say that people who have to use assisted living are a burden. That's sort of in quotation marks. But yeah, that independence is really valued by all of us. And the second they take the car keys away from us as older adults, there are not a lot of options left unless you can pay for an Uber, or we have a new voucher program that is wonderful through ACT, and the Regional Planning Commission is part of that, I believe, too. Where you can actually get a reasonably priced ride to a place that is a necessity for you. That's wonderful, but it's a pilot program. Can we continue that? Let's hope that we can. But can we make, city transit free for everybody? Cities our size and smaller have done it. I think it's possible. But that's often something we don't think about. Oh, it needs to be, we all need to be recovering our costs when we're a public good, really. And transportation is never going to be cost effective if you think that everybody has to bear the cost of it. It is a public good. It's a public service. And what other things that we provide? We have a wonderful library system here. I mean, I love our libraries. That is something we should be proud of in Amarillo. And I think we are proud, rightfully so. To be a city this size with as many libraries as we have is phenomenal. We have so many beautiful parks. I just love exploring and experiencing new parks. To me, that's one of the beauties of our city, that when I first moved here, I was just like, look at all these parks, and now I work for Parks and Recreation. Yeah, I guess I was already tooting their horn even before I worked for them.
I think in our area, you don't expect as many parks as we have.
No,
Just because
right?
you think like, oh, it's, flat and brown out here. And it's like, no, actually, we have a lot of city park space.
We do, and I honestly will say it is not flat and it's not brown. Like coming from southern New Mexico, that was brown. And there's so much beautiful green in this community, and also such beautiful topography changes as well. Like it's a gorgeous place to live. I really do believe that, and that was a pleasant surprise to me. I expected completely flat and very industrial. That was sort of the sense that I had of Amarillo. And it's much more diverse than that.
What is your favorite thing about your work at the Warford?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard.
I know it's become very
So
clear that you're
hard.
not super passionate about. I'm gonna have to pull this one out of you.
Yeah, what is my favorite thing about the work there? I think the surprises that come every day from community members who are stepping forward to help or to lend an idea or to assist. I had somebody the other day, he said, gosh, I know you're so busy. Can I volunteer and help you? I was like, that'd be amazing. Like, let's figure out what you like to do and what we need to get done. I mean, we have a community member this afternoon who's loaning us her time and her truck so that we can take some cornhole boards over to Wesley because our van isn't working right now. And, I didn't even ask her for that. She volunteered that. So to me, to see like people stepping forward and wanting to be part of what we're building is so gratifying. And certainly, there are challenges, and not to wallpaper over those, but I think the biggest challenge that I face is there are not enough hours in the day to really do everything that we would like to do. So that's why we need to and want to incorporate more people into our work. That's the beauty of the work. It's not just one person. It's not, I mean, it may be coordinated by me, but it's not directed in this usual sense of direction. It's a whole bunch of us working together to figure that out.
And I would imagine to an extent there is responsibility in it being that, in fact, that you are, that is your responsibility in the community to not hold the work.
Yes, and that's a good reminder. I think as we age, either we can go one of two ways. We can control more and more and more, or we can sort of realize that other people letting others engage and work with us and support us is a healthier way to be. And I fight that a little bit. I mean, as somebody who grew up in sort of like that Protestant work ethic that was very independence minded, it's that sense of, oh my gosh, I have to do the best job that I can, and I exist, as this like person in the universe by myself. But that's not really the way we're meant to be as human beings or as living creatures, any of us. We can't survive, we can't be successful that way.
What are you looking forward to at the Warford?
Ooh, I want to say we want to do more activities with young people.
Okay.
So that we call co-generational work. Or co-gen work. And so that's really where it's not multi-gen, because co really brings that sense of us working together and the strengths of all ages are coming together. So this summer, we've got some activities planned, which I think will be just a beginning point with the kids who come to Warford for summer camp. And I love the summers. I mean, the energy is frenetic in that space and also so encouraging because where can kids go to swim every day and play outside every day and do crafts? And I mean, it's an amazing, amazing camp that the rec side of our department has planned. And so we're going to do some activities together with them where we're doing something for, the anniversary of our wonderful democracy, where we're going to make flags together out of, craft materials, not fancy flags, but, and that's going to be our olders with our youngers. And so I think the co-gen activities coming up and building on those will be just so exciting.
I grew up doing summer camps at the Y in Roswell,
Oh my goodness, how
Yes.
fabulous. So
Yeah,
you've
my
got those
grandparents. Yes, and they are
memories.
right at the front of my mind at this moment. You know what I mean? It's so impactful and such a wonderful place of neighborhood and community.
Oh, I love that you
Um,
had that opportunity, and I
yeah.
wish all children could do it. I mean, we don't have enough space for, and certainly we're not the only game in town. I'm not
Yeah.
saying we're the best or anything. There are many opportunities for kids, but so many kids are parked in front of screens and without, healthy food or any food at all. The grandparents may be struggling to provide for them and care for them. I mean, it's a big challenge in our communities. I think you had asked earlier, Skylar, what I would do if I had like all the resources in the world. I think what I would do is create co-generational living situations where older adults who normally get put in institutions could live side by side with young families who have children, and they can all be together. And this is not like my dream alone. It has actually happened for decades in Europe. And this is not a hard thing to do. It's just a very different way of conceiving of aging. And why do we segregate based on age? It makes no sense at all. There's so many benefits that come from us all being together. And so that's what I would do, I think. We have a lot of really great opportunities and resources for older adults to live in our community if they have money. But folks who don't have those resources and folks who want to stay living with younger people, there are not any opportunities for that beyond, just staying in my neighborhood. But if I can't do that, what do I do? We really don't have any options.
And the mutual benefit of cogen style. Again, this isn't my area of work, but I've read about programs where, aging population are providing childcare. And,
Yes.
a lot of times kind of some of those screen dependencies are because their parents are working, there's just like some very real realities to that stuff. And some of that stuff just makes really good sense.
It really does, and how young people can just bring out the joy in older adults. Even, you hear about people with dementia being able to like hold a doll,
Hmm.
and how that can bring that sense of nurturing and connection for them. Animals can do the same thing. I mean, there are just so many opportunities for us to see the humanity and life in each other at all ages. Why do we want to shut people away? We shut our little ones away, we shut our olders away, and it's sort of like we want to pretend that they're not there. The little ones make too much noise, the older ones are just a burden, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Does your marketing feel like a shot in the dark? Are your social media posts getting lost in the scroll? Unlock your business's potential with SKP Creative. They know your audience and design posts that reflect your brand and drive real engagement. From scroll-stopping social media content to powerful traditional marketing, graphic design, and website development, SKP Creative covers it all. Are you ready to elevate your feed and turn your marketing into a success story? Visit skpcreative.com today. Okay, I'm back with Kari Bachman. Kari, this is a part of the show we call 8 Straight. When you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
I hope for a more equitable community. So, equity meaning that everybody has the opportunity to access things that make them healthy and live a healthy life. And that is a huge, huge dream, I know, but that would be my dream for Amarillo.
When was the last time you went to Paladuro Canyon?
I hate to say, but it's been too long. I've lived here 2.5 years, and it was about 2 years ago. And we had a fun hike, but it was very, very hot. And my partner started having like low blood sugar,
Oh,
and that was
no.
not good. So we haven't been back, but we need to be better prepared next time because I love it there.
Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
I will say intersections without stop signs. We have 3 and 4-way intersections with no stop signs, and I have never understood the logic of that.
Yeah, these ambiguous yields.
Yes, or maybe not even a yield. Like, what do you do when you get to a T intersection and nobody has any indication of what's supposed to happen? Do we just continue forward and then blame the other driver if we run into somebody? I don't quite understand it.
It is funny to get a person who hasn't always lived here to point out, like, that's really weird that y'all do that.
Right.
And what do we not have enough of?
Well, I said this earlier, we do not have enough sidewalks.
Yeah.
We need more sidewalks. Those are expensive, but they pay off in connecting neighborhoods with each other and connecting people with each other.
I've appreciated your perspective. It may just show my ignorance. I hadn't made the connection to sidewalks for uh, independence and longevity and some of those. I appreciate that.
Good.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
What's your favorite local building?
I'd have to say the Santa Fe building. It is one of the first buildings I went into when I moved here because I wanted to register to vote in the community that I was now in. And I went to do that. And I walked up all the way to the top and stood on the top and looked out. And I got to see the old water fountains and the old mail chutes and see that the building's still being used. I just love that building.
And favorite local restaurant?
So I have two. I will share, I love Hope Village. It's a place where young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities get to work, and then they get to work, develop those skills. And they've got an ice cream shop, a coffee shop, like a deli with a salad bar. I just think it's an amazing model and wonderful that we have that in our community.
On South Washington?
Yes,
Where they're
very
currently
far
putting
south.
in a bunch of sidewalks.
Yes, they are. That's
Which
very
is cool.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. Isn't that an interesting place for sidewalks?
It
way down
surprised
south.
me.
I know. And I'll also say a place I discovered just yesterday, but I love, 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 is called Bangkok Tokyo. And it's an odd combination of cuisines, but they have some really nice options for people who don't want heavy meat or heavy sauces with their Asian food. And it's a tiny little hole in the wall family run business. Wonderful on Western.
For you, you've only been here 2.5 years? Well, you hit like a well-kept secret pretty soon, so that's good. In Bangkok, Tokyo, it's good stuff. Okay, you have 4 hours to spend in Amarillo with someone who's never been here. What are you doing?
Honestly, I would go to the parks, and that sounds like a cop-out because I work for Parks and Rec, but I go to Thompson Park every weekend with my dog. I love people watching there, and you can get a real sense of the community by going on a weekend and seeing who is out in the parks and what they're doing with their families. I've seen so many different groups of folks in Thompson, whether it's folks from Afghanistan who are just sitting and enjoying the water to flying a kite. We've got young women from North Africa who are having like a graduation party who asked me to take their photo. I mean, I just love the people who rub shoulders in Thompson Park. That's what I would do.
What kind of dog?
Oh, I don't know.
A perfect mutt? I love a perfect mutt.
Well, I think she's pit bull with some other like frenetically strong and energetic dog, but she's the sweetest, but she's very hard to control. So if I see you when I'm with my dog, I might ignore you so that she doesn't go like maul you.
I have 2 of those, and if I see people, I'm like, hello, it was nice seeing you.
Right. I'm ignoring you. Sorry about that.
That's right. Finally, what do you think people get wrong about Amarillo?
Well, I will say this from a New Mexican's perspective. I think we think in central New Mexico that it's very much like East Side New Mexico. And I'm not dissing East Side New Mexico at all, but Amarillo is more cosmopolitan and it has more diversity. And to me, I love the fact that we're a larger city and that we have so many people here from so many different countries. It's just a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for building a future that's just so rich. And I had no idea of that diversity when I moved here.
Yeah.
It was such a welcome surprise.
Yeah, I agree. That concludes our 8 straight questions. I like to end by asking my guests to endorse something. What is something that you would endorse? If a person doesn't know about, hasn't tried, what would you have them?
Ooh, I forgot about this question.
Give a shot.
It's sitting there right there. What would I endorse? I would endorse voting. We have an amazing Potter County election office, and I actually work as an election judge.
Cool.
And it is run so ethically by people who care from both parties, I will say, and also independents. And it matters. Please, please educate yourself and go out and vote. It couldn't be more important than it is today in our society.
I endorse that endorsement greatly.
I hadn't even thought of that question. I'm like, oh, it's staring me in the face. Like,
It's
what is
it's a
that?
good one.
Oh my gosh, it's so important. We've got a runoff election coming up, and people, I just don't think they're they're excited about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It matters.
It does. Kari, thank you so much for
Oh,
your work in the
Skylar,
community.
thank you.
And for your time today.
It's been awesome. I appreciate the opportunity.
That concludes the episode. Thanks to Kari for the interview. Thank you to the Amarillo Art Institute and SKP Creative for supporting the podcast, and to Broderick Adams for editing for us every week. And thank you for listening. This has been episode 452 of Hey Amarillo. My name's Skylar Gallup, and we hope you'll listen next week.